day, colleagues. Yes. Colleagues, I greet you all wherever you are. Thank you for your attendance. Your attendance is highly appreciated by us. So I greet you all. This is Mr. Ngcongo from Master Chabul High School in Catholic. We are doing the same topic, or we are in the same content with my colleague here. We are in economic pursuits, where we are saying what is the economy that tries to achieve. So I need to make maybe an exam tip and an emphasis on what my colleague was saying. It is every country's goal to achieve economic growth and development. So let us make our learners understand that even here in South Africa, we want to achieve this economic growth and development. And for us to do that correctly, we need to have policies. Policies are there to guide us, do whatever that we want to do and achieve it effectively. So with economic growth and development, we are saying for us to come up with a good economic growth and development policy, let it have nice and correct approaches so that we will achieve what we want it to achieve for us. So demand side and supply side approach are those two approaches that are like making to sure that our policy is well formulated so that it will give us what we want to achieve. And another thing that I'm saying is an exemptive. Make sure that your learners understand that this demand side and supply side policies that we are discussing are still the same as the one that we discussed. Only the purpose that differs. We were talking about demand side and supply side where we were talking and analyzing the economic performance, trying to smooth out the fluctuations in the business side. Now we are talking about the very same demand and supply side, but now the focus is in promotion of the aggregate demand and aggregate supply so that the economy will grow up and develop. So if our learners could make that difference, they need not to treat it as if it's something different, only the purpose that differs. We want now to have a good economic growth and development policy. A good economic growth and development policy should be in line with our new economic paradigm. It should stimulate demand and simultaneously stimulate supply. Then we'll achieve economic growth with employment and without price pressure or inflation pressure. That is what I wanted to add. Right. Then mine here is to do policies. Colleagues, let us take this thing into policies now. The first part, if you look at our exam guideline, it says we need to briefly evaluate the following South African growth and development policies. After we have discussed the supply side and demand side as an approach in creating this policy, we are now going to look a bit at what South Africa has done and what South Africa is currently doing in terms of policies as it pushes out this pursuit or this goal of achieving economic growth and development. So this part, according to our exam guideline, we need to briefly do it. Let us not make our learners feel like they understand RDP but they do not have enough information to say about it. Even in our guideline, we are not expected to have so much information, but we need to make sure that our learners can evaluate these policies. The most important part about these policies, it is the evaluation. What was done, in which year, and how successful it was. For each and every policy in these policies, they need a learner to understand the year, they need to understand the purpose or the focus of the policy, as well as its success or its appropriateness. Alright. So we are looking at those national policies in terms of economic growth and development, and we are trying to make our learners understand that these are national development policies or national development initiatives. I want to say national development policies or initiatives which were taken by South Africa to take its economy from where it was before to where it is right now. Initiatives. Thank you, colleagues. So moving forward, we are saying from the previously disadvantaged South Africa that you used to live before 1994, when you got this democracy, we started by the first policy, which was RDP. That was the first one. We had RDP. Remember, colleagues, that we said we do not want to dwell so much, but we need that important part of these policies to say what the policy is doing, and it was done in which year, and how successful it was. Then even how the question is going to ask learners, the appropriateness of this question, their successes and failures, learners need to understand it. So we have now the first one, which was RDP. We said the RDP focused more on human beings, focused more on the standard of living of the South African people. So the focus of RDP was on human, I would say it was on human beings, or say it was on people's lives, the South African people. Right. This is where we're saying RDP is talking to the issue of dealing with poverty. This is where we say RDP had a lot to do with the creation of job opportunities and also the improvement of the standard of living. This policy was then supported by other policies, because we need our learners to understand that the minute we introduce another policy, we don't totally do away with the previous one, but it is added just because there's something that is needed on top of the previous one. They are all in line with one goal that we said, it's economic growth and development. We were even doing those approaches so that we can have a good economic growth and development. So even with these policies, we still do that. So we have a policy, and then when we see the policy and look at its successes and failures, we come up with another policy in support of the previous one, not to totally replace it. Our learners need to understand that. Maybe the best way to do is that you need to teach your learners policies, all of them, clearly make them understand before you tell them about their failures, before you tell them about what the policy did not achieve, so that the learner will understand that these policies are working together, they are working in support of one another. Then after, when they understand it, you can now tell them that certain policy did not work, certain policy failed to achieve this. Colleagues, we may continue. So the second one was here. I'm following the exam guideline, but if there is a clarity needed, we will get into details for each and every policy. But I'm trying to follow the guideline because we are expected to briefly explain them and also to be able to evaluate them. The most important part and the examinable part of these policies, it is the evaluation of these policies. So we have the following one, which is here, which was focusing mostly on the growth, employment, and redistribution. Now that South African people are now becoming more economically active now, because their lives are being taken care of the RDP, the economy is now being reconstructed in such a way that it does accommodate South African people in terms of poverty, in terms of unemployment, and in terms of their standard of living. So what do we do now? We need to have growth in our economy. That growth should create us employment opportunities for our people. So it's growth, employment, as well as redistribution. Redistribution of what? Of income and wealth. This was the main focus of the GIE, implemented immediately after the RDP has been evaluated and seen that it does whatever it does, but it needs support of another policy. So we had another a policy which is called GIE, which was specifically making to sure that within the South African economy, there is economic growth, there are employment opportunities created, and also there is a fair distribution of income. Because when we redistribute it, we are distributing it again because we've noticed that the economy that is there, the income and wealth that is there, it is in the hands of the minority. So we are now redistributing it in a more fair and in a more balanced way. That was the main function of GIE that was implemented after the RDP. Yes.
So uma abibuze ngalo kuma redistribution ukuthi yiphi indlela that wealth ethical to ma redistribution in a way which it's ukuthi sizama ukuthi i-land wealth it get to the hands of the people, which way they use. For example,
I think that is a good question. As I was saying, we need to make our learners understand that this is redistribution of what? Of income and wealth. Firstly, the government looked at those people who do not have income at all and came up with ways of how they can get income. That involves even the social security grants, where we say that is answer that we're looking for. Right. So that is how we are trying to involve people, because we say if you do not have income, then you won't have demand. And if you don't have demand, you are not part of the economy. So automatically you are marginalized. So that is how money was being redistributed to those previously disadvantaged members of the community. So if you're saying you're satisfied with the answer, colleagues, let us move to another policy. Then I would like to add another page where we'll say after the RDP and GIE, everything was moving according to these two policies, but there was this element of being slow in terms of achieving what we want to achieve. Then a new policy was implemented, which was not going to count against any point of these two policies, but it was there to fast forward and give the acceleration part of the economy to all the objectives of the RDP as well as GIE. So that one was the ASGISA. This is a policy that we say it is an accelerated and shared growth initiative. So we are saying here, it's all about accelerating every process of economic growth and development that is being brought to us by RDP as well as GIE. So it was highly linked and in line with the objectives of GIE, but giving them timelines, giving them time frame as to when things must be achieved. This is when South African economy came to a decision that they need to halve poverty by 2014. Every policy that was prior to this one wanted to halve poverty or to do away with poverty, but they did not have timeline. So ASGISA came with a time frame and said, by 2014, let us be at this point by that particular period of time. So it was all about acceleration of every growth strategy that was being implemented by the other policies. So the focus of GIE as a policy, it was to fast track and to fast forward all the programs that were being implemented. The acceleration of economic initiatives and economic programs that seeks to assist South African people. So moving forward from this understanding, then the economy of South Africa is now taking care of its people, is now having economic growth, trying to create employment, and is being fast assisted by the ASGISA. Now came the issue of skills now. People are now looking for jobs, but they do not have relevant skills. South African economy is now looking forward to grow, but population is failing to provide skilled labor. Then another policy came in place to talk to the issue of the delivery of skills that are needed by the workplace, the provision of skilled labor that is needed in the economic growth or that is needed even in the workplace. So we are saying another policy that came after this one was saying, let us have that critical skills development. We are tired now of having a population that has oversupply of unskilled labor. So the following policy, following from this one, was the policy that talks to the issue of skilled labor against the unskilled labor that we used to have before. And that policy, if we double check, colleagues, that policy was GIPSA, which stands for Joint Initiative on Priority Skills Development. Its main focus was development of critical skills, skills that involve science, skills that involve technology, even financial management, all the relevant skills that our economic growth requires from our population. That policy wanted to make sure that there is the development of such skills. So we have that policy as GIPSA. It stands for Joint Initiative on Priority for the Development of Critical Skills. Right. So the main focus here was the critical skills development. Okay, my colleagues with the way I write. This was the main focus of the GIPSA as a policy. So all these policies, colleagues, they were meant to make sure that South African economy is growing and is achieving what it wants to achieve. So to the learners, it sounds historical to them, but it's also nice to learn about the history of your country. So it should make the learners understand that these policies used to work like this. They do not replace one another, but they support one another. Following from that one, as we're talking about skills development, the South African economy also came up with the concept of the EPWP, which was also coming from the understanding or the purpose of the GIPSA, where we said people do have skills, but sometimes they do not have those critical and highly trained skills. So the EPWP was there to make sure that everyone gets employment, everyone does get a job. This was making to sure that even if we move with technology, even if we move with skilled labor, but there are also jobs for the people who are less skilled. So the EPWP was saying some projects must be done using a labor intensive, where we say a human effort is being used. So that one was the EPWP, which stands for the Expanded Public Works Programs. Following from this one, we have the NGP, the New Growth Path. I'm trying to be brief enough, colleagues, but if more clarity is needed, please assist me and you can have even your own contribution. So we have the New Growth Path, which we said the New Growth Path as NGP was made to show that there is also an acceleration of the development program that were taking place. So the NGP also focused a lot on the fast tracking of economic growth initiative programs that were there. So there was the New Growth Path, which focuses on fast tracking or the acceleration of growth programs. Right. Are we okay, colleagues? We can continue. Right. Another one, which is the most current one, is the NDP. This is the last one. And before I explain the NDP, colleagues, I would like to say it's possible that whenever these policies are required in examination, this one will come for more marks, because this is the current one. This is the one that we still have right now, up until the new one comes in support of the other policies, because we said even to our learners, we do not say a policy is replacing one another, but a policy is added in support, because policies are there, but they do not achieve 100% of its objectives. They do have their shortcomings and shortfalls here and there. This is why we come up with new policies. So we have that NDP. This is the policy that is currently used in South Africa, the National Development Plan. This one colleagues, I want us to have more information on it for our learners to be able to explain it in class. With NGP, we say that I would like to read it as it says here because this is a policy. President Jacob Zuma appointed the National Planning Commission, NPC, in May 2010 to draft a vision and the National Development Plan. So the Minister of Planning, Trevor Manuel, the Minister of Finance, Trevor Manuel, presented the draft in 2011. So these are the points that I would like us to note, colleagues. The National Development Plan, NDP, it eliminates poverty and reduces inequality. That is the most important part of this point. I would like to note down the key objectives of this policy. NDP, the National Development Plan. Right. So we're saying the key focus of this point is poverty alleviation. So it eliminates poverty. I would say poverty and inequality. The first part of this policy is it deals directly with poverty and inequality. And another point, it reduces unemployment. It has a lot to do with unemployment. And we must make our learners aware that it reduces unemployment, and it wanted to achieve this 14% by 2020, and as well as 6% by 2030. In fact, this policy is the one that we say it is a vision 2030. This is where the country wants to achieve. They gave themselves a time frame. Remember that other policies used to say, you are doing whatever that you are doing, but you do not have time frame. Acceleration was there to make sure that there is time frame. So this one comes with its own time frame. This is what is called Vision 2030. By 2030, they want to achieve this. So there is growth of the economy by building economic capacity. So I would say build economic capacity. This means that it wants to achieve what? Economic growth. Right. Another point that I would like us to add for our learners, increase in employment in terms of numbers now. Increase in employment is 13 million by 2020 and 24 million by 2030. The aim is to increase employment by 13 million by 2010 as well as 24 million by 2030. As I mentioned, that is a 2030 or it is a vision 2030 kind of a policy. Another point that I've noted for our learners here is that increase in the share of national income for both the group of 40% and those that are below 6% in terms of their living standard. Another point is that ensure that skilled, technical, professional, managerial posts better reflect the country's racial, gender, and disability makeups. This talks to the inequality that we spoke about. I will read it again. It ensures that the skilled, technical, professional, managerial posts better reflect the country's racial, gender, and disability makeup. This means that every economic growth that is going to be there, it must be shared by all South Africans equally. This policy is also taking the points from other policies, saying there must be economic growth, there must be employment, there must be good economic capacity for everyone. This is how far colleagues have planned for these policies, but the exam advice is that we should teach our learners to remember the years for these policies and also to remember the failures of these policies. And I'm going to go back a little bit and put the time frame in terms of the years. But as I was saying, we need to make learners understand the policy first before you make them understand that the policy failed somehow. All right. If you allow me, colleagues, I will go backward a little bit where we started with with the RDP. Let's put here, colleagues, in which year RDP was implemented? It is 1994. Even in class, you make your learners to put these years for them. So this is a period for this policy. It was 1994. And here, it was done in 1996. This is a period for this policy, right? The following question from the one is ASGISA. When ASGISA was implemented? We have 2000, and other books they say 2006. It's 2005. But I can mark my letter if it's 2005. So why not I have 2006? Can we agree on that one? It's 2006, right? This is a period for the implementation of ASGISA. Then GIPSA. GIPSA was implemented in year 2007. Right. And then we have NGP. NGP, it was right on the side, it was 2012. And then NDP, which is the current one, and then one that we said learners should expect more marks in it. It is from reading from here, it says it was the idea came in 2010 and the draft was presented in 2011. Yes. So we can say that after the draft has been finalized, so it was done on that year. Right. Colleagues, can we add something or ask if maybe there's something that you are leaving behind in this process? Even your colleagues on the other venues, you can ask if there is a question about these policies. But the exam advice or the tip that I was saying, do not make your learners feel like there's going to be an essay on these policies. That brief evaluation is the one that is needed for your learners to understand. Can we move forward? Right, in the absence of any question and contributions, colleagues, let us move now. Looking at our exam guideline and the way we've decided our presentation together with my colleague, now we move to the regional development. Yes.
Before we can actually move on to the regional development, yes. I think there is a gap that there is some information that yes, I left out, okay, and I got taken up, and now it was triggered by the question, yes, that's redistribution of income and wealth. Yes. So I don't know if I would still be able to
find
but anyway, this is because these are essay type questions, and if they are essay type questions, it calls for subheadings and the discussion of these subheadings. Well, with the monetary policy, all the subheadings were there. It was interest rates, moral suasion, cash reserves, and open market transactions. But for the fiscal policy, I was taken up and I realized that the subheadings were left out, which then would fill up the gap that our colleague has. So with the fiscal policy, we have, for the redistribution of income and wealth, we have progressive tax, yes. Progressive tax system, that is a tax system where the one who earns more pays more tax, and the government then would use those funds to support or to finance social services for the poor income groups. So progressive income tax, like the income tax that we have in South Africa, the pay as you earn. The more you earn, the more tax you pay, and that would reduce the inequality gap because it redistributes income actually. High income groups had more, low income groups had less, so the government would tax more and come and support the lower income groups. Number two, we have wealth taxes. Now here the government will tax the wealth. Capital gains tax, we know that is a tax that you pay when you sell shares, for example, your capital goods. Properties are also levied, we know the rates, property rates, and as much as it could be a percentage, but for a house that is worth far more, that person will pay more rates. And transfer duties, this is the tax that you pay, or maybe should I make, maybe we have CG, capital gains tax, CGT, properties are levied, tax on property, property rates. We also pay taxes, transfer duties. This is the tax that we pay when ownership of houses. When you sell a house, you also pay these taxes to transfer ownership from the seller to the buyer, so that the property is registered on your name. That then securities like shares. So when you sell your shares, securities, you get taxed. And estate duties. Estate duties. So on the estate of the deceased, and if the value comes to a certain level, then the government would tax them. So that was our that was our number two, wealth taxes. Number three, sorry? Cash benefits. Yes, number three, we have cash benefits. Now these are old age pensions, cash grants, disability grants, child support grants, and you can see that the government is trying to redistribute income because these are all financed from, you see, the progressive tax system provides funds to finance all these. And then number four, we have benefits in kind. Benefits in kind. These are not cash benefits, but benefits such as free education, the meals at schools, free electricity, free water, free healthcare that are given to especially the lower income groups. Then we have public works, EPWP, public works program. Mr. Ngcongo explained the EPWP, where the government tries to create EPWP. The government tries to create job opportunities, and especially these projects are labor intensive, so that more people can get jobs. Although they are temporary, but at least for the duration of the contract, the people get employed, and in the process, they may acquire skills that can empower them to find jobs. So the EPWP. Number 6, we have land restitution and redistribution. which is still a big story in South Africa. Land restitution and redistribution. This is trying to return land that was lost by people during the apartheid system. I think it was in 1913, the Land Act, and people lost their lands and they are now have to be either it is returned or have to be compensated. Also, for land redistribution, focuses on residential and on farms. Now, this is still a big issue in South Africa. We will not get into it though. Then lastly is, which would be our number 7. Number 7 is housing subsidies. So this, here the government is trying to make sure that people subsidies this is financial support or assistance from the government so that people can own property. We know housing subsidies. So that is, the subheadings for the fiscal policy. Yes, the fiscal policy. That would also help redistribute income and thank you for the slot.
Okay, thank you. Alright, thanks a lot, ma'am, for the information. And it's very much important that you let us know that everything done on the fiscal and monetary policy is done in promotion of economic growth and development. So they have to mention all these points. Right, we are here now looking at regional development. But before we look at regional development, we say, let us understand the concept of industrial development. It is economic growth and development that we want to achieve. But we said economic growth will give us economic development. And economic growth is measured in terms of GDP, where we are producing goods and services, where the country's ability to produce or the productivity in the country is in the point that is able to produce more goods, have more businesses open, operating, employing more people, and then people will have income, and then they will make their lives better, and that will come as a standard of living, where we see their standard of living improving. But the whole concept starts with the ability to produce in the country. So for us to have economic growth, we need to have industrial development policies. These are policies which are directed in developing our industries so that we can produce, so that we can even export, so that we can create job opportunities for our people. So I want us colleagues to put it like this. The industrial development, as you can see from our exam guideline, that we have that first part that talks to the industrial development before we start regional development, where we are expected to discuss in details. But it doesn't mean that our learners must not do the first part. They need to have a clear picture on it and know that higher order questions are expected there on regional development policies. But we need to understand the whole idea of industrial development. So we are going to start by saying industrial development. We have industrial development that has been done in our country. Industrial development in South Africa. Right. We are saying industrial development, right, because we want to achieve economic growth. So the main aim with industrial development, we need to have the aims, we need to have the reasons, and we also need to have the framework. So let us start by saying, why do we have to have industrial development policies? So we are going to have reasons. I also have notes here prepared, colleagues, so that we will look at it in details. So we have reasons, and then after the reasons are telling us that we need to have industrial development because we want to explore the world, we want to exploit the international trade, we want to produce more goods, we want to create employment for our people, we want to eliminate poverty in our own country, we want to develop our standard of living. So these policies are the ones that are going to take our growth up. So we are saying the reasons will then be supported by what? By the Industrial Development Policy Framework, which is named as the NIP, the National Industrial Policy Framework. I will say here, policy framework. So the policy framework is the one that's going to tell us how do we go about implementing these policies. So we've got good reasons as to why we need to have our industries developed. We want to exploit the world, we want to increase the level of our GDP, we want to create job opportunities for our people, and we even want our country in terms of international standardizations to be one of the best economies. So those are the reasons why we need to have industrial development. Right. Then, for having industrial development, you then have the industrial development policy framework, the one that will guide us on how do we go about implementing these. One of the points that is mentioned on industrial development policy framework is that we need to make our economy more diverse so that export can increase. We need to make sure that industrialization are more intensive in the long run. So that is the framework that is needed. So having a good framework that will guide our industrial development, we then take it to the action plans, the industrial policy action plans, which is known as IPAP. This is industrial policy action plan where we are saying, because of these reasons, we are going to do these policies according to this framework, and these are the actions that we need to do. So with IPAP, colleagues, we need to make our learners understand that the main purpose of IPAP is to make sure that policies are implemented correctly according to what has been agreed as a policy. So we are taking what is in the policy into action, and we are making sure that we are delivering what our policy has promised us. And in practice, IPAP is given as a 3-year plan to fast track the economic growth and development. Every time we implement a policy, we let it operate, but we use this industrial action plan to check whether is it giving us what we expected. So learners need to know that this is a 3-year plan type of an action plan where we say that every 3 years we'll look at it, every 3 years we'll look at it. And the tricky part that learners need to understand here is that we're having the 3 years. When we drop the first one, we add another one. Going forward, this was our first year. So we add another 3. It's not that we will go and add a different set of 3 years. We will add a 4th year on top of the 2 and have 3 years. We'll add the 5th year and have 3 years. So in practice, you look at IPAP as if it is done yearly. The review of this policy, it will be done every year in practice, because we keep on adding another year as we drop the first one, because we are going forward. Our economy is growing, and time in terms of period is also going forward. So then I need to understand that IPAP is a 3-year plan, and every time we add a new set of 3 years, we add a new year and we drop the previous one. We add another year and then we drop the framework and also the industrial action plan. We can now have regional development policies. But this is one point that I would like learners and us to have on what? On industrial policy action plan. all about economic growth that will lead to economic development. So industrial action plan, it will help to build South Africa's industrial base in critical sectors of production. We do produce, but we have those areas where we say our production needs to increase. So it also again makes sure that we are able to do what? To take care of those critical sectors in our production, and also to do what? To fast track the industrialization of our country. One of the things that will be done by the industrial policy action plan, which is to fast track industrialization in order to address shortcomings. Wherever we seem to have a problem, our action plan will tell us directly where do we have problems with our industrialization and attend to those issues. So we say industrial action plan is now telling us that we have a policy here. We have industrial development policies with very good reasons to implement it, a correct framework that will guide us, then we take everything into action. Then after this, colleagues, we can now have the regional development policies. And before we do regional economic potential. So when you implement an industrial policy, you need to go into a specific region and attend to their issues so that each and every region will develop. And after it all, the whole country will have economic growth and development. So that is the idea behind having a industrial development regionally. The regional development is for each and every region, for specific parts of the economy to be attended well in terms of their economic capacities, the economic advantages that they have, and also the economic challenges that they face. We need to help them where they need help. We need to assist them where they have potential. So the regional development policies are there to make sure that all different regions of the country, they develop so that the whole country will achieve its economic growth and development. Because if we give it as a national strategy, you will find that there are people who will be left out, who will be neglected, who will not be attended to. So regional development policies specifically go to regions, attend to their advantages of the economy, challenges, potential, as well as their capacities. So let's go to regional development. It's regional development policies. This is where then we need to understand that each and every province is different from the other province, each and every region, because we will say provinces, but saying regionally will even expand to a point whereby we're not referring to provinces per se, but we're referring to different parts of the country as areas with different economic challenges and resources. Right. So these regional development policies, we say that we've got to have the aim. Why do we have to have them? The aims. Learners must have this information pegged in this way. The aim of regional development. The main aim of regional development is to attend to regional economic issues. Where they have advantage, they need to be assisted and promote whatever it is that they do good. And wherever they seem to have challenges, they also need assistance for them to uplift their standard and grow up. So the main aim of regional development is to take that national economic growth and development policy to people where they are regionally. That is the aim of the regional development. After we have the aim, we then also make our learners understand the advantages, even though it doesn't appear on our exam guideline, but it will help them understand how good it is for us as a country not to end with national growth and development, but to also go into regions. So we have advantages for what? For regional development. Right. And then after the advantages, as I was explaining, that it will be good for each and every region to get its special attention according to its differences from other provinces or from other regions. And then from there, we looked at our profile, South Africa's regional development. Then when we look at South Africa's regional development, this is where we actually look at what South Africa is doing, those initiatives, those policies that South Africa is having. And then we have the South Africa's endeavors, which are said to be South Africa's growth and development initiatives regionally. So I will say SA endeavors. And then the last part, it will be the evaluation. How would each policy, how appropriate is each initiative for the economy of South Africa? So evaluation of regional development or the appropriateness of these policies. Right. I said, colleagues, we have notes here because these are policies. If I explain them, then we don't say them. It will take us like a lot of time. I have notes here. I want us all to look at these notes that are prepared for us to see what each policy has for us. This is regional and industrial development. The one that we said we attend to each and every region's issues. We want to make sure that each and every region has got its economic performance improved. These are the reasons. Just like we said, we need to have the reasons there on top of the industrial development. The EPAP, this is the information that our learners need to understand. But we said the exam guideline says we must focus more on South Africa's endeavors or the policies themselves. With EPAP, they need to understand which EPAP are we having now. I think it's the 10th EPAP that we are having right now. And they need to understand that EPAP focuses on the provision of infrastructure because it wants to take the policies into action. Then we have the industrial development strategies. This part of national research and development strategy, again, colleagues, we need to make sure to our learners. Then we go for regional development. Yes. The aims of the regional development, if we may read one, is to reduce unequal development of economic activities within the country. Provinces of the country or regions of the country are not the same, so we want to reduce their inequalities by making to sure that each and every region is given its special attention. The last one also says to prevent the new imbalances from emerging. We don't want any more differences. We don't want KZN to remain KZN as is. We don't want Johannesburg to remain like a destination for everyone living in South Africa. People must get job opportunities where they are. So these are the aims for regional development. We want to stimulate development in poor areas, areas which are previously neglected, areas which are less developed. We are taking economic growth and development to those areas. That is the aim of regional development. We implement and coordinate the implementation of national and regional industrial policies. The national policies will be implemented here locally at regional level. So our regional development policies must be in line with the national development policies. So this is the basic aim of the regional development. Then these are the advantages that we can enjoy as South Africans if we seriously take note of the importance of regional development. It encourages industries and economic activities to be spread over the area of the country. No one anymore will have to move from his or her own place of residence to another if development comes, if economic growth is taking place, if there are job opportunities around your area. So these are the advantages, but my focus is on the policies themselves, colleagues. Let's quickly move to the policies. One part that we are expected to do and thoroughly do, it is the part of international best practice or the international benchmarks. For our industrial development policies to be regarded as good internationally, they must meet the following criteria. Let us make sure that our learners do understand that it is because of the country's economic growth that we make policies. And we cannot just implement any policy. When we implement a policy, we need to make sure that the policy is internationally regarded as a good policy. Then we implement it. So this is what we say regionally, a good regional development policy must meet the following criteria for it to be regarded as internationally good. So these are the points, colleagues. I don't know whether we'll be taking some notes in it. They have to be good governance. The policy should talk to the issue of a corrupt-free governance of the country. We need not to implement policies that will keep on feeding those corrupt leaders of the country. And there have to be an integration amongst our policies. So are we taking notes, right? There's supposed to be partnership between government and non-governmental organizations to uplift the economy. The economic development is not the issue of government or economists only. It's a socio-economic issue. So we need government to work together with every stakeholder that is there in the country to make sure that there is economic growth and development. A good provision of resources. There has to be sufficient resources for even new businesses to be started. Competitiveness of our industries against those of the world, and also must make us to be competent even against other economies. And then there's development of people for people by people, which is what I was emphasizing, that development must go to people where they are. Development in the region must be made, and it should involve people living in that area and make sure that it benefits those people. If there's a project that is taking place here, it should create job opportunities for local people and give that infrastructural facility to those people. So it's our development for us, by us. And then we move to development from below. There are those areas which were neglected, less developed. We need to start with them. Start with the issue of poverty. Start with the issue of basic services, and then we go up. So that is development from below. We need not to bring it from above. The masses, the majority of people is there at low income earners, those poor areas, disadvantaged environments. So this is what is said. The policy must bring development from below, must start with the most of the people that are the ones who are suffering a lot. And then the last part says total development is a multi-dimensional process. It should serve different types of purposes at the same time. So we need to have the whole development being the multi-dimensional. As we look at our policies, certain policies failed to create employment and others came with that. Certain policies were not fast enough, certain policies brought that. So we are saying it has to be like this. This is an international best practice as a criteria, and learners should understand it. Here we go to the policies, colleagues. The first one is Spatial Development Initiative. I brought this note so that it will not take too much time for us to explain it, right? But with Spatial Development Initiative, it should be clear to all of us and to our learners that this is where government appreciates the fact that there are areas which are neglected. There are areas which are left out, even if the national economic growth and development policy can be so good, well implemented, but it keeps on leaving certain people outside. Those people refer to them as economically marginalized in terms of access to basic services, in terms of employment, in terms of their standard of living, and all the other economic challenges that they have. So the Spatial Development Initiative is saying this is going to be an initiative that is specifically go to those neglected areas, to those less developed areas, and try to attend to their issues. So it is going to be specific, it's going to be very special. It's not going to address everyone, but address those with higher challenges economically. Great. Can we add more on this one? Or it sounds as if it makes sense. But for our learners, they should understand that this is where we even expect, it says, questions with higher marks can come, so they need to understand each and every policy in details. So from the Spatial Development Initiative, we have corridors. According to these notes, we have corridors where we say this is where we connect two areas with a development, and then the area in between will end up benefiting. There will be an area on this side that is well performing in terms of the economy, and the other one that is well performing in terms of the economy, and this area in between that is neglected, that does not have economic activities. But when these two areas try to communicate, to exchange goods and services, where there are transactions taking place between these two developed areas, even the area in between will end up benefiting. There will be infrastructure created, moving from this place to another, passing through these neglected areas. Then we are saying that type of infrastructure, it's called corridors. It forms communication between two developed areas and end up benefiting the one that was not even involved in that idea of trading. So we see corridors as one way that we can help develop our provinces or our regions. Let those developed regions communicate and interact in such a way that even those that are neglected in between them, they do benefit. That is meant by corridors. And our learners should know the corridors that we have and even be able to identify them from the map. Right. Here in KZN, we have a Durban Pinetown type of communication that is there. So our learners must understand. But these are some of the examples that we have. It is taken from the idea of spatial development. Corridors come as part of the spatial development, but they seek to address the issues of neglected areas. These are the places that we say we've got Maputo and Development Corridor and the rest of the other corridors. Learners must have at least 4 or 5 examples for them to be able to take in those short questions. From SDI's corridors, then we have IDZs, the Industrial Development Zones. I think colleagues here, there is that part that we are being advised to say, let us teach our learners to understand the fact that IDZs are no longer called IDZs, but they are now called SEZs. So that part is needed for our learners to understand that it's the very same idea in other places, the very same areas, but the concept has changed to add some of the objectives that's supposed to be achieved by these policies. So we've got industrial development zone, where there will be a geographical demarcated area where we say producers or business involved people should be operating here. And those zones, those geographical demarcated zones, they used to have or to be given better infrastructural facilities. They are given incentives, they are given subsidies for them to operate very well, and they are placed nearer to the required infrastructure. So they become specific zones where only the producers and the producers which are sometimes exporting goods to other countries will only find a place there, operate there, enjoy these benefits, and take the country's GDP forward. So there are points here that I would like us to take note that each IDZ offers a direct link to an international port or airport. The world-class infrastructure that is provided there, and there is going to be a zero rate of VAT on suppliers from South African sources, government incentive schemes, reduced taxation for some products, access to latest information. Looking at these points only, you can tell that producers in ITZ are encouraged to produce more, to create more job opportunities for their regions, develop their economic growth, and then it results to the whole nation benefiting from the policy. But this ITZ, it's regional. You cannot just make one ITZ for the whole nation. It's going to be specific to a specific region. And you've got these IDZs in South Africa. Our learners, for data response questions, they should know them and also be able to identify them from the map. Then we are saying the concept of IDZ was now changed into SEZ, the Special Economic Zone. Learners will notice that it's still a zone, it's still a specific area where just nobody can enter, but only the people with the same purpose can only be allowed access there. So it creates the basis for a broader range of industrial park and provide economic infrastructure to promote employment. That point on its own explains it all that everyone who's going to be there is there for the purpose of promoting economic growth and development through the access to infrastructure that will make them produce more. So SEZs are here now replacing the concept of IDZs. Are we together, please?
Yes.
Right. I'm not sure the time. We're still within the time frame. Right. The last part of this slide that I would like us to take note of, the Department of Trade indicated that the existing IDZs were special tax incentives do not apply, they will upgrade it into SEZs. Some learners on some questions would ask why IDZs were then called SEZs. It's addition of what IDZs were not providing. It is like strengthening of the benefit that we're getting from IDZs. That is why we call them SEZ, to make them more appropriate and more effective for the current economy. And then we've got strategic integrated projects. So I'm going to be very short on this one. We have a strategic integrated projects, and we've got infrastructure plan, we've got foreign direct investment. And I want to go according to our exam guideline, right? According to our exam guideline, we're supposed to do in details SDIs, IDZs, and SEZs, right? And then this information at the bottom comes as incentives that are there for the country to produce more goods and services. So looking at our exam guideline, we have those points, SEZs, ITZs as policies, and then after that we say, briefly discuss this to your learners, the incentives used by South African economy to improve industrial development. So we've got business support program, we've got SEDA technology program, skills support program. All those are now the incentives that are received by the producers which are involved in the above policies. Are we okay? Right. Looking at this, the strategic integrated projects, this is where we say there are different types of seats, but the whole idea is to say, let us have an integrated project where we are going to address like multi-purposes. So the integration of economic and social infrastructure projects in the country, there are currently 17 designated projects identified. From your textbooks, you don't need to say to your learners they must like read all the seats that are there, but you need to understand the idea and have few of the seats as their examples. Then from there, it's infrastructure plan and foreign direct investment. All these points, they bring about economic growth and development. You cannot have economic growth without infrastructure. Economic growth needs infrastructure as the foundation for products to be produced, for businesses to invest. And then we also need to invite other people, that is foreign direct investment. We need to invite and form a relationship. We used to say that in grade 11, countries that are developed need to form good relationship with those that are developed, that are still developing. And developing will learn and benefit from the developed. So that is foreign direct investment. Colleagues, I want to close it here if there is no information here that I'm leaving behind my colleague. I think we've done all the policies. One last part that colleagues I would like us to make sure, there is also again a benchmark criteria, just like in the regional development policy policies. There is also again a criteria that we need to make sure that internationally our policies are working correctly. So in our exam guideline, there is something that says discuss in detail the regional development in South Africa in terms of the following benchmarks. Those are international benchmarks or international standardization. The learners need to understand that our policies must meet this criteria for them to be regarded as internationally appropriate for our economy. Thank you. So we can have questions. We have contributions, colleagues. Even the colleagues on the other venue can add something or ask in terms of these policies. I know that to our learners, this policy, this chapter or this section becomes maybe too long for learners to understand, but we need to have ways to. Yes.
With regards to the ideas and the SEZ, since now it was, I want to get clarity because what I was checking is that it was the concept or was changed from being the IDZ into the SEZ, isn't that so?
It's not the concept only.
No, yes. But I just want to check first that it was the concept that has been changed, isn't it?
Yes.
From being IDZ to the SEZ.
Exactly.
Because there's a reason behind why what happened, because there were some of the things that was not made by the IDZ.
Exactly.
That is why it was changed to the SEZ. Yes. So now my question is, when teaching these learners, what do we really do now? Do we teach them the IDZ and then go to the SEZ, or we just teach them as SEZ? That is where I get the confusion.
Okay. I know, I get your question clearly. Colleagues, you will assist me here. According to the information that we have, even according to the guideline, it says we need to teach IDZ and SEZ. It's not like the fact that we have moved from IDZ to SEZ, so we no longer talk about IDZ. We still teach IDZ and SEZ, but make that information clear to learners that, because one learner will ask you, what is the difference between SEZ and IDZ?
Yeah,
because they're the same.
It's the same thing, yeah.
Yeah. So you
create a lot of confusion to the learners now.
Yeah.
Why? Because this is the same thing. Why
are we doing it again?
Yeah, why are we doing IDZ and also the SEZ as well?
Right. Maybe another colleague will add, but one answer that I gave to my learners, because I encountered that question, I explained to them that IDZ was doing exactly what SEZ is doing, as they understand, but there were incentives added right? There were other benefits added to the producers who were operating in the IDZ. That were not there. So the SEZ is like the new version of IDZ with more benefits to the producers. It's exactly the same. Even the places, those places that used to be so and so IDZ, it's the same place as SEZ. Yes.
So that is where now a lot of confusion comes now, because with this chapter, that's where the confusion comes now. With this SEZ and the IDZ, it's where the confusion comes. With the learners, especially when you are teaching this, I'm always myself encountering a challenge, especially with this.
But we need to deal with colleagues. And also to maybe if learners continue to argue, and you can even previous papers, that's why previous papers are seen. They will see that there was a question in the same which required both of them, and even in the memorandum, this is how they even see the difference in the points provided.
Yeah, maybe originally the ITZs, as you would see where they are located, their location, they were initially designed to encourage international competitiveness. That is why they would be exempted from paying customs duties when they import raw materials to produce whatever they would produce only for export purposes, of which the SEZs were not would not benefit from, would not get that incentive. But now they have changed. Even if when you are in Durban, the Durban trade port. Initially it was an ITZ, now it is an SEZ. They actually changed. They used to have it as ITZ, but now it is SEZ. And you can see all of these ITZs. The Richards Bay is next to the harbor because originally it was meant for international competitiveness.
But in SEZ tries to cover
SEZ would have been anywhere where there would be economic potential
It does not only focus on exports, like what IPZ used to focus on.
Yeah, ITZ, I think what distinguishes ITZ was that it was
two spaces.
specifically to encourage international competitiveness.
Then, colleagues, if there's nothing else that we end, I propose. Oh, yes. Pungashe, yes, your question is welcome.
I heard you referring to industrial development as something that affects development in provinces. Can you explain?
Can you repeat the question again?
You're talking about industrial development.
Yes.
Okay? But you kept on referring to development provinces, in provinces.
Oh, all right.
So what is the rationale behind that?
Okay, thank you. Let me explain myself on that one. I started from the explanation that the whole growth and development policy that we started, even when we were doing approaches, it's a national economic growth and development policy, right? But looking at our country, it has got different places. I started by saying the country itself is divided into different regions, even different provinces, right? But I did mention that it's not provinces only. By saying regional, we say different places, not regions per se. But our country, South Africa, it has got 9 provinces. And these 9 provinces, they've got different economic potential, they've got different economic advantages and different economic challenges. So when you want South African economy to be well developed, you better go to each and every province, to each and every place, and find their problems, assist them, and apply a relevant policy to a specific province or a specific region that has got those problems, so that if these 9 provinces in our country are well developed, and then the whole country will be developed. So that is more or less the same like saying if different places in the country are developed, and then the whole country will be developed. So I do emphasize that regionally we mean provinces, but we do not mean provinces only. Even in KZN, you can have a policy that goes to KZN, but not the whole of KZN. A specific area in KZN, right? So it's regional. It's specific to different areas of the country. Are we getting the shot? Oh. Oh. Oh, it's clear now. Thank you. Thanks for the question. Thanks, Salome. Colleagues, even in other areas, we are closing now. We know that we can't cover it all. So I believe that we managed to do the most important parts. So I also thank the opportunity to be here in front of you, working together with you. And I'm also looking forward to grow a lot. Thank you, Yo.